And so again, his kingdom was divided up among his generals. It was divided up into 4 regions. 2 of those regions were Egypt and Syria. And that's important for us for chapter 11. Those 2 regions, Egypt and Syria, are referred to in verses 5 to 20. So verses 5 to 20 are talking about the kingdom of Egypt and the kingdom of Syria after the death of Alexander the Great, when the kingdom was divided up. They were significant because of their geographic location in relation to Israel. If you can picture a map of the Middle East in your mind, or if you have a map in the back of your Bible, Egypt is south of Israel. Syria is north of Israel. Israel was in the middle between those 2 kingdoms. Verses 5 through 20 describe the wars that took place between Egypt and Syria over a period of almost 200 years. And so since Israel was in between these 2 kingdoms, much of that fighting took place in the land of Israel. That was the battleground. Or the armies passed through the land of Israel on their way to fight against the other kingdom. So for almost 200 years, Israel was impacted by the fighting between these 2 nations, Egypt and Syria. Israel's caught in the middle of this war, this ongoing war. One commentator wrote, Daniel foresaw the turbulent years when Syria and Egypt struggled for supremacy in the Near East, and when wretched Palestine was torn from the grasp of this king to that king. And so part of the war that's taking place between Egypt and Israel, Egypt and Syria, is over the land of Israel. Who's going to control that land? And this goes on for almost 200 years. Just, battle after battle. So verse 5 says, also the king of the south shall be strong. Now the king of the south is referring to the king of Egypt, again, which was south of the land of Israel. We're going to see the king of the north. That would be the king of Syria. Again, we're talking about a time span of almost 200 years. It says, again, the king of the south shall become strong, as well as one of his princes. And he shall gain power over him and have dominion. His dominion shall be a great dominion. So the king of the south, Egypt, here it says, the king of the south shall become strong in the region. But then it says, as well as one of his princes. Again, we know historically what this is talking about. One of the officers under the king of Egypt became king of Syria. But the king of Egypt gained power over the region, gained power over the king of Syria, and had dominion over that region, including the land of Israel. And at the end of some years, they shall join forces, for the daughter of the king of the south shall go to the king of the north to make an agreement. But she shall not retain the power of her authority, and neither he nor his authority shall stand, but she shall be given up with those who brought her, and with him who begot her, and with him who strengthened her in those days. The king of Egypt gave his daughter Bernice to marry the king of Syria, to form an alliance between the 2 kingdoms and to maintain power over the region. The only problem was the king of Syria was already married. So the king of Syria divorced his wife to marry Bernice from Egypt. Well, this is going to sound like a soap opera. Well, let me tell you what happened. The ex-wife didn't like that so much. So she poisoned her husband, ex-husband, the king, and then murdered his new wife, Bernice, and their son that they had together. And then she installed her own son as king over Syria. Well, when the news of that made its way down to Egypt, the brother of Bernice when he heard that his sister and nephew had been murdered in Syria, he gathered the Egyptian army and he invaded Syria seeking revenge. That's what's described in verses 7 and 8. But from a branch of her roots, her brother, one shall arise in his place who shall come with an army, enter the fortress of the king of the north, and deal with them, and prevail, and he shall also carry their gods captive to Egypt with their princes and their precious articles of silver and gold, and he shall continue more years than the king of the north. After the Egyptians, they go up to Syria, they defeat Syria, they took all of their gods, they took all of their gold and silver, they looted the country, they brought it all back down to Egypt. Well, then we're told in verse 9, also the king of the north, that would be Syria, shall come to the kingdom of the king of the south, but shall return to his own land. Eventually the Syrians, they attack the Egyptians. Again, this is all passing through the land of Israel.